My name's Ryan, I'm 29, and I rent a modest two-bedroom apartment just outside the city. It's nothing fancy, plain carpet, outdated appliances, and the occasional plumbing issue, but it's mine. Or at least it feels like mine. I work full-time at a logistics company, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills. I'm up at 6:30 every morning, out the door by 7:15, and usually don't get back home until after 5. That kind of schedule doesn't leave much room for drama, which I've always been grateful for. I like things quiet, controlled, and simple. That was before my sister moved in. Her name's Laura. She's 32, and the golden child in every sense of the word. Growing up, it didn't matter what she did, late for curfew, wrecked Dad's car, nearly failed out of college, my parents always found a way to spin it in her favor. She's going through a phase, or you know how sensitive she is, or my personal favorite, Ryan, you should be more understanding. She's your sister. And for the most part, I kept my distance. I didn't fight it. She had her life, I had mine, and we'd cross paths maybe twice a year, usually when our mom forced some kind of family dinner. But about a month ago, I got a call from my mom that flipped everything upside down. Ryan, she said, voice trembling just enough to sound dramatic, Laura's going through something. She's not well. Her husband left her. I waited. Okay, she just needs a place to stay for a few weeks. Just until she finds her footing. No, I said immediately. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I knew exactly the kind of storm Laura would bring with her, but it didn't matter. Within hours, I was getting calls from every direction. My dad, my uncle, even my grandmother, who barely remembers my name but somehow had the clarity to call me and say, "You take care of your family when they need you." Eventually, I cracked. Not because I wanted to, but because I was too tired to keep pushing back. So she moved in. 1 week ago. Just one. She showed up with 3 suitcases, a ring light, a stack of Amazon boxes she insisted were work-related, and a tight smile that barely masked how little she wanted to be there either. We went over the ground rules that first night. I told her, clearly, she could stay for 2 weeks max, no guests, no mess, and this part was key, no remodeling anything. I even said it jokingly, but I meant it. I've seen what she's like. The kind of person who rearranges other people's stuff and then acts offended when you ask her to put it back. She agreed, sort of. She nodded, said, "Yeah, sure," and then immediately opened a box and started unpacking some kind of LED backdrop with fake vines. I just went to bed. The first few days weren't terrible. Inconvenient, yes. She used my nice towels without asking. Left hair in the drain. Rearranged the fridge. But I bit my tongue. I told myself, it's just 2 weeks. You can survive this. But then, on day 5, things started to shift. It was a Thursday. I came home from work, tired as usual, dropped my bag on the couch, and noticed something strange. The door to my bedroom was closed. Not just closed. There were 2 wooden planks nailed across it. I'm not kidding. Actual planks, like someone had tried to board it up during a hurricane. I stood there for a solid 10 seconds just processing. Then Laura came around the corner, holding a smoothie and wearing workout leggings like she had just returned from a spa retreat. "Hey," she chirped. "I was going to text you." "What is this?" I said, pointing at the door. "Oh," she said, like it was no big deal. "I turned your room into my office." "Hope that's cool." I blinked. "You what?" She sipped her smoothie and started walking past me. "It's just temporary. You weren't using it during the day anyway. I needed a space that gets natural light, and your room has the best window. I sleep in there." "Laura." "Well, yeah, but I figured you could crash in the guest room. Well, my room for now. It's just easier." At this point, my voice was rising. "You boarded up my door." "I had to." She snapped, suddenly defensive. "I bought a microphone and new camera gear, and I can't have you going in and messing it up. I have clients, Ryan. Actual clients. People depend on me." "What clients?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't be rude. Just because you don't understand what I do doesn't mean it's not important." She stormed off before I could say anything else. I stood there, stunned. I didn't even try to pull the boards off. I was too tired and too angry to deal with it that night. Instead, I slept on the couch. The next morning, she was already gone when I left for work, and by the time I got home, things had escalated even further. The boards were still there. But now, a big printed sign was taped over them. "Do not enter. Private workspace. Trespassers will be reported." Reported to who? The apartment authority? I'd had enough. I knocked on the door to what used to be my bedroom. No answer. I knocked again, harder. She yelled from inside, "I'm filming. Come back later. Laura, we need to talk." Now. Nothing. I walked away, grabbed my phone, and sat on the edge of the couch trying to calm myself down. I texted her, "We need to talk. This isn't okay." No response. So I did something I had hoped I wouldn't need to do. I called my mom. She answered on the second ring, sounding tired but expectant, like she'd been waiting for me to call. "I know what you're going to say," she started. "Do you?" I said flatly. "She's just stressed, Ryan. You have no idea what she's been through. She's heartbroken. She's trying to rebuild her life. She boarded up my bedroom door." There was a pause. Then, "Well, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation." She replaced the doorknob with one that locks from the inside. "Ryan, please don't make this into a bigger deal than it is." That was when I knew. I was on my own. I ended the call, got up, and knocked on the door again, harder this time. "Laura, open the door. I'm working," she shouted. I said nothing, just stood there, breathing slowly, until I turned away and went to the kitchen. I opened the cabinet where I kept my tools, pulled out a screwdriver, and walked back toward the door. I wasn't going to hurt anything. I just wanted my room back. But before I could even touch the first screw, the door swung open. She was standing there, eyes wide. "Don't you dare touch that. It's my room." "I told you," she said, practically hissing. "This is my office now. You agreed I could stay here. I agreed you could stay in the guest room. You don't get to take over the apartment." "I need this," she snapped. "You have no idea what I'm building. I'm finally getting my life on track, and you're trying to sabotage me because you're jealous." I laughed. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help it. Jealous? Of what, exactly? She slammed the door in my face. And that was the last straw. I picked up my phone, scrolled down to a number I hadn't used in months. My landlord. I stared at the screen for a second, thumb hovering. I knew what would happen once I hit call. This wasn't just some roommate spat. It was about to get real. I hit dial. "Hey, Mr. Evans," I said when he answered. "We need to talk about something. It's urgent." And that's where things really started to unravel. Mr. Evans is in his late 50s, runs a handful of properties around town, and doesn't mess around. He's not one of those laid-back landlords who forgets to fix the sink for 3 months. He's the clipboard type, organized, punctual, and known to swing by unannounced just to make sure the unit isn't being misused. I'd always kept a good relationship with him because I liked living here and didn't want to give him a reason to bump up my rent or be difficult about renewals. When he picked up, his voice was casual. "Ryan? What's up?" "I'm sorry to call like this," I said, already bracing myself. "But I have a bit of a situation." "Oh," he said, neutral but attentive. I explained clearly and calmly what had happened. I told him my sister had been staying temporarily, that I'd allowed it under the assumption it was short-term, and that now she'd essentially taken over the apartment. I emphasized the boarded-up door, the altered lock, and the fact that I couldn't even access my own bedroom. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "She did what to your bedroom?" "Boarded it up. With actual wood planks. And replaced the doorknob. She's using it as her office." "You're paying for the whole unit," he said, mostly to himself. "And she's not even on the lease." "Exactly. I'll be there tomorrow morning." "No," I said. "Can you come tonight?" That surprised him. "You think she'll cause trouble?" "I think she already has. And I don't think she plans to stop unless someone forces her to." There was a beat. Then, "All right. I'll see what I can do." We hung up. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. It wasn't relief exactly, but it was something close. At least now there was a next step. I wasn't just stuck in limbo, waiting for Laura to dig in deeper. It was around 7:30 when she emerged from the room again. She didn't even look at me. She walked straight into the kitchen, humming under her breath, and started making tea like nothing had happened. I didn't say anything either. I was done trying to reason with her. At this point, it wasn't about talking. It was about consequences. She took her time in the kitchen, adding honey and oat milk, stirring slowly. Then she finally glanced over and said, "You look mad." I said nothing. She laughed. "Ryan, come on. Don't be such a baby. You're blowing this way out of proportion. If you just let me work in peace, I'll be out of your hair in no time." "You mean in a week like we agreed?" She looked away. "I mean, I might need a little longer. This month's been really hard, and I finally have some momentum going." "You're not staying longer." Her eyes narrowed, but before she could say anything, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mr. Evans. "Be there in 15." I smiled. "What?" she asked, sensing something had shifted. Nothing, I said. Just a little work message. She squinted at me, but I could see the flicker of suspicion in her eyes. She wasn't dumb. Manipulative, yes. Entitled, absolutely. But not dumb. She knew I wasn't going to keep putting up with this, and I think on some level, she started to realize that her game was wearing thin. 15 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Laura had gone back into her office, and I walked calmly over and opened it. Mr. Evans stood there in his usual leather jacket and black slacks, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. "Evening," he said, stepping inside. "Where's your sister?" I pointed at the bedroom door, still boarded up, sign still taped to the front like we were running some kind of back alley medical clinic. He blinked. "You weren't exaggerating." "I wish I was." He walked over and knocked. "Hello? Laura?" No answer. He knocked harder. "Miss, I'm the property manager of this apartment. I need you to open this door immediately." There was a long pause, and then finally, Laura opened the door a crack, just enough to peek through. "Can I help you?" she said, voice sugary sweet. "Yes," Mr. Evans said, "all business. This unit is leased to Ryan only. You are not on the lease. You are not permitted to alter the property, nor are you allowed to block access to any part of it." "I'm just using the room," she said. He said I could stay here. "That's not the issue," he said, holding up his clipboard. "You're trespassing. And unless you remove those boards and leave the premises within 24 hours, I'll be forced to escalate this." "I'm his sister," she said, stepping out fully now, arms flailing dramatically. "This is ridiculous. I'm not some stranger." "That doesn't matter," he said, unfazed. "You are not legally allowed to occupy this unit, especially not in a way that restricts the leaseholder's access to their own bedroom. That's a breach of your brother's lease and could result in his eviction. So I'm going to ask you again, politely. Start packing." Her jaw dropped. She looked at me like I just betrayed her, like I was the villain in some twisted family sitcom. "You really called your landlord on me?" she spat. "I asked you to leave," I said, keeping my voice even. "You didn't listen." She glared at both of us, then stormed back into the room and slammed the door behind her. Mr. Evans and I just stood there. "I'll give her until tomorrow morning," he said. "After that, I'm calling in a removal team. If she refuses, the police will be involved. And she won't be allowed back." "Thank you," I said. He gave me a nod and headed out. And now here I am, sitting on the couch, writing this, listening to her stomp around in the bedroom like she's trying to summon a demon through sheer rage. She hasn't said a word to me since Mr. Evans left, but I know this isn't over. Not by a long shot. If there's one thing Laura hates more than being told no, it's being held accountable. Tomorrow morning is going to be interesting. It was a long night. I didn't sleep much. Not because I wasn't tired, I was exhausted, but because I couldn't relax with her still in the apartment. Every few hours, I'd hear her pacing, sometimes talking on the phone in that fake soft voice she uses when she wants something. I could hear fragments. "He's being completely unreasonable, and it's not illegal if I'm family." And the one that made me actually sit up on the couch. I should have recorded him. I could have made this look like abuse. I didn't say anything, just stared at the ceiling and let it all soak in. This wasn't someone who felt guilty for overstaying her welcome. This was someone trying to spin a narrative where she was the victim. I woke up around 6:30, same as usual, and made myself coffee in silence. Her bedroom, my bedroom, was still shut tight, with the boards still nailed in like some kind of petty barricade. I took a picture of it just in case. Then I texted Mr. Evans. "She's still here. Board's still up. Just a heads up." He responded immediately. "Understood. I'll make the call." Less than an hour later, I heard it. The knock at the door. Not a gentle landlord knock this time, either, firm. Serious. I opened it to find two uniformed officers standing in the hallway. One male, one female. Calm expressions, hands resting near their belts. "Morning," the male officer said. "Are you Ryan?" "Yes," I said. "Come in." They stepped inside, looking around. I gestured toward the boarded-up door. "She's in there. That's supposed to be my room." "She's not on the lease?" the female officer asked. "No," I said. "She was supposed to stay for 2 weeks. It's been over that. She's locked me out of my own room, changed the doorknob, and refuses to leave." The male officer tilted his head, clearly surprised. "She locked you out of your bedroom?" "With actual wood planks. See for yourself." They exchanged a quick glance. Then the female officer walked up to the door and knocked. Loudly. "Ma'am, this is the police. We need to speak with you." There was no answer at first. I was just about to speak up when I heard it. Locks turning. Then the door cracked open, and Laura appeared, barefoot, messy hair, makeup smudged like she hadn't slept either. "What is this?" she snapped. "Miss, we've been informed that you're living here without being on the lease," the male officer said. "We need to verify your identity and have a quick chat about what's going on." "I'm his sister," she said, voice rising. "I'm not some squatter. He invited me to stay. And he also asked you to leave," the female officer said calmly. "Is that correct?" She looked directly at me. Her eyes were furious, glassy like she was on the verge of fake tears. "So you really called the cops on me? Your own family?" I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside and let the professionals handle it. "Ma'am," the male officer continued, "you need to vacate the premises today. You've overstayed your welcome, and your continued presence here is interfering with the leaseholder's rights. We can either handle this calmly, or it can escalate into a legal issue." "I'm not going anywhere," she said flatly. "This is my office. My business runs out of here. You can't just kick me out." The female officer raised an eyebrow. "Your office is in someone else's private bedroom that you boarded shut?" "That's not the point," she said, stepping out further into the living room. "He told me I could stay here. He promised." "No," I said finally. "I said 2 weeks. That was almost 3 weeks ago. You've taken over my bedroom, tampered with the property, and ignored every request I've made. You don't live here." She turned on me. "You're pathetic. You couldn't stand me succeeding, could you? That's what this is really about. I'm building something and you can't stand not being the center of attention anymore." Both officers gave me a look, clearly seeing through the theatrics. The male officer spoke again. "Ma'am, you have 2 options. You can pack your things now and leave voluntarily, or we begin the formal eviction process with a trespassing charge. That includes law enforcement supervising your removal. Which do you prefer?" She looked like she was about to scream. Her face went red, hands clenched into fists. "You know what?" she said, shaking her head. "Fine. You all want me gone. I'll go. But when Mom hears about this, don't expect to be invited to anything ever again." "Not a problem," I muttered under my breath. She stormed back into the room, slammed the door, and started throwing things around, boxes hitting the floor, drawers opening and slamming shut. The officers stayed near the door, relaxed but watchful. I stood by the kitchen, still unsure if this was really happening. It felt surreal, like the past week had been one long nightmare, and I was finally starting to wake up. It took her about 40 minutes to gather her stuff. A few times she accidentally dropped things loudly. Her makeup bag, a box of LED lights, a ring light that cracked when it hit the floor. She didn't say a word to me as she stomped out of the apartment, 2 massive suitcases trailing behind her, arms full of tangled wires and props. She barely even looked at the officers, just muttered, "This is disgusting," under her breath as she left. They followed her out, watched her march down the hall, then turned back to me. "She gives you any trouble, call us," the female officer said. "Thanks," I said. "I appreciate it." They nodded, then left. And just like that, it was quiet again. For the first time in weeks, the apartment felt like mine again. I walked over to the bedroom, my bedroom, and stared at the boards still nailed across the frame. I didn't even know where she got them. Probably one of those Amazon deliveries she kept saying were business tools. I took a deep breath, grabbed my screwdriver, and started prying them off, one by one. With each piece of wood I removed, I felt lighter, like I was peeling away layers of someone else's chaos from my life. When the last board came off, I opened the door, and what I saw made my stomach drop. The room was trashed. Clothes everywhere. Lipstick smeared across the mirror. One of the curtains was ripped. And the smell, strong perfume, maybe 3 different kinds, all battling each other in the air. It was like walking into the aftermath of a tornado that had passed through a Sephora and a temper tantrum. I didn't even know where to start. But I didn't yell. I didn't call her. I didn't even take pictures, though I probably should have. I just stood there in the middle of the room, my room, let out a slow breath, and started cleaning. Not for her. For me. Because I needed my space back. Because I was done giving her the satisfaction of any more of my time, energy, or peace of mind. She didn't message me. Not that day. Not the next. But I should have known the silence wasn't peace. It was prep time. By the 3rd day, the texts started rolling in. First from my mom. MOM texted, "Ryan, what did you do to Laura?" MOM texted, "She's here crying, says the police dragged her out." "Are you serious right now?" Then my dad. Dad texted, I don't want to get in the middle of this, but come on. She's your sister. Then my aunt, who I hadn't spoken to in years. And June texted, I always thought you were the calm one. I guess I was wrong. Apparently, Laura had spun the story into some big melodramatic sobfest. Ryan betrayed me. He ambushed me with the police. He humiliated me and destroyed my business. She even told them I'd stolen her stuff and locked her out first, my room, by the way. My family, being the Olympic-level enablers that they are, didn't even question her version. I ignored the texts. Every single one. But on the fourth day, my mom called. Not text, called. I let it go to voicemail, but she called again. Then again. Eventually, I picked up, because I figured I might as well get it over with. The second I said hello, she exploded. How could you? I held the phone away from my ear and let her get through the first 30 seconds of yelling before calmly responding, Hi, Mom. Good to hear from you too. Don't you dare be sarcastic with me, Ryan, she snapped. You had her removed from your home by the police. She refused to leave. You could have talked to her. I did. Multiple times. She's your sister. She just went through a breakup. She's hurting. And instead of healing, she boarded up my bedroom and tried to take over my life. Sounds healthy. She told me you screamed at her. She screamed at me. I just called the person who actually has the authority over this apartment when she refused to go. She had nowhere to go. I paused. Oh, so where is she now? Silence. She's here, my mom admitted. We told her she could stay until she finds her feet. Ah, I said, letting the sarcasm drip. So I didn't leave her on the street like she told everyone. Good to know. You're being cruel, Ryan. I took a breath, stood up from the couch, and walked into my clean bedroom. The smell was finally gone. No, I said. You know what's cruel? You raising two kids completely differently and expecting the one you always guilt-trip to clean up the other's messes. You all act like I'm heartless, but I'm not. I just finally hit a point where I realized I was being used. Again, I gave her a place to stay, and she tried to push me out of my own home. That's not hurt. That's not grief. That's entitlement. She's family. And I've spent my whole life being told that means I'm not allowed to have boundaries. That ends now. There was a pause. I could almost hear the wheels turning, like she wanted to say more, but couldn't find the words that would still make her sound like the reasonable one. She'll get her life together, my mom said quietly, almost like a warning. She just needs time. Great. Let her take all the time she needs with you. Then I hung up. It felt final. Not dramatic, not angry, just done. Over the next few weeks, word got around. Some relatives called to check in, which really meant they wanted gossip. I didn't entertain them. I kept things short, polite, and ice cold. The message was clear. If you're here to lecture me, you can go. As for Laura, she stayed with our parents. For a while. At first, she acted like a guest of honor, playing the victim card, soaking up their sympathy, floating around in silk robes while she restructured her business. But eventually, the cracks showed. She left makeup stains on the furniture, took over the guest room and turned that into her new workspace, ordered takeout on their card, left dishes in the sink, and slept until noon. My dad started calling me more often, not to scold me this time, but to ask questions. Did she do this at your place too? Yep. Did she really put boards on the door? Yep. She left her ring light on all night. The electricity bill's up $60. Sounds about right. By month 2, I got the message I'd been waiting for. Dad texted, she's moving out. Your mom finally told her she's on her own. We should have listened to you. I didn't reply. I haven't spoken to Laura since. I don't know where she lives now, or if her little business ever took off. I don't ask. I blocked her number, muted the family group chat, and finally drawn the line I should have drawn years ago. Some people will call it cold. Others will call it selfish. Me? I call it peaceful.